Today I'm going to do a trash can rescue. I'm going to keep you guys in the dark, for a moment anyway. Keep you guessing at what I might be working on. All I can tell you is it's very old. It's much older than me. I'm going to guess that this goes back to maybe early 50s. Somebody out there will know, because I just know that my mother-in-law and father-in-law had one of these in their basement, exactly the same as this. Let's check it out. Well, look at what I found in the recycle bin at work. In fact, I found a whole bunch of them, but this is the first one I'm grabbed out of the pile. I found some that are even older than this, but this is pretty old. I don't know the exact vintage of this old dial phone. Dial's kind of sticking a bit, but we're going to take this one apart, see what makes it tick, and see if I can get this thing to work. I have no idea whether it works or not. I'm assuming it probably doesn't, because it's been sitting outside for who knows how long. I can tell you right now, the base is pretty rusted on this unit. So we'll see what it looks like when I get into it. Looking pretty ugly at this point. But we'll see if I can even get this thing apart. It might be rusted too badly. The screws may be rusted too badly and not come apart. But let's see whether I can get into this thing. Yeah, those screws are. That one's turning. Well, that's a good sign. At least that one screw comes out. The other one is rusted pretty good. Now, typically, you just loosen off these screws, and the top cover should lift off. Oh, that one's in tight. This one might need some penetrating oil on it, WD-40 or something, but let's just see whether I can crack this thing. Oh, there we go. That was all it needed, was a good smack of the screwdriver to break the rust free. Okay. The top should lift off this thing. Should lift off. What else is holding this up? This is from an era when the phone was hard connected to the wall. Before phone jacks. That was hard connected right to the wall. 3 wires. Back in the day, you had tip, ring, and ground, and the ground was used for the ringer, because these would have been in use in the days of the party line. I think I just don't have the screw out all the way. There we go. Okay, there's the inside of the phone. What do you bet this capacitor has PCBs in it? I think the chances are pretty good that this thing's full of PCBs. There's the bell. Right? The old and the inside guts to the phone, including the old dial assembly. We'll take a look at how the dial assembly worked on these. It's of course a pulse dial, and with a little bit of luck, if I connect this up to a current phone service, if I put I don't even know if I need to put a new wire on, I could probably just clip it onto the end here. It might even work, but wouldn't that be something? We'll see if we can free up this dial a bit. Let's get a close-up of the actual dial assembly itself. Show you how the rotary dial works. Of course, you got your switch hook here. I'll show you, get a close-up of this. Transformer over here. This is for your to interface the actual handset with the phone line. The wires look to be in pretty good shape. I don't see any. Actually, I was expecting this thing to be full of rust, but it's not. It's actually in pretty good shape. what's the little tag on the bottom here saying? What is this? Does it give me the model number? And it also gives me the wiring. So this is a ringer frequency on this one here is it's a PL4. Doesn't tell me whether it's maybe 10 hertz. Is that DS10? But here's the, oh yeah, it's got a wiring diagram in here as well. So this is made in Canada, automatic electric. Let's get a close-up look at the schematic. So here's our schematic, and you've got your handset and your handset receiver, which is going to have a carbon microphone and the earpiece. And here's our incoming line, our terminal block. A couple of resistors in here. Where's the ringer? There's the ringer right there. The switch hook, pulsing spring, shunting springs, black, white, orange, and red. Yeah, this is the dial unit here. Let's take a look at the dial unit and the disconnect switch hook. So when you hang up the phone, it presses down the button on the top, which disconnects the phone by. There should be a button on either side, which there is. So there's a button on either side of this, you see, that will operate it. Doesn't matter which side you push. If you push one side, it'll teeter the other one up. You push the other side, and there's spring. Well, this one's just the weight of it, but if I press this one, you see that one the button on the left will open the switch hook, and the button on the right will operate this lever, which will of course operate the other one, and it's operating the switch hook from these two little cams here. So that's disconnected the phone. When you pick up the phone, that's what gives you your dial tone. And then when you dial your number, you've got there's a switch over here, which is keeping these contacts open. If we look down here, I'll get some light in here. Light always gives you a better picture. First, when you start to turn the dial, is this spring will wind and it will release this little catch, which will of course allow the switch to close. That's now turning on the ringer. And then when you wind the spring up, when you release it, it's going to spin this switch here, which is going to open and close these contacts. And that's what dials your number. And as I say, this one here is sticking pretty good because this thing is as old as anything, and it's probably going to need some oil onto the at least onto the bearings here and into the limiter, and probably some cleaner on the contacts. We can give this thing a shot. I'm just going to grab a can of Neutral, and we're going to give these contacts a shot, and then I'm going to hook this thing up and see if it actually still works, because I've got a copper phone service here, so I can dial out with a pulse phone. We'll see whether this thing works and whether I can make an outgoing call. Now I've got other ones I'm going to open up as well that actually have a selector switch on the bottom that will select the ring frequency. But on this one here, the ring frequency would be set by the capacitor value. That's what passes the signal to the ringer. And of course the ringer itself, the bell itself, is set to a specific, so it would only ring on a specific frequency. Because back in these days, everybody was on a party line, right? So you either had a 10 hertz tip ground ring, or 10 hertz ring, ground ring, or 20 hertz, or 30 hertz, or 40 hertz, or 50 hertz, or 60 hertz. So typically you could have 6 different ring frequencies between tip and ground, or 6 different ring frequencies between ring and ground. And the phone would only ring if the ring was on the appropriate wire. So basically the yellow wire here, the ground wire, which is probably not even connected anymore because I'm sure that this phone has been converted. Looks like it has been. The wire's been removed here, but normally there would be a ground wire connected, and the ground wire would be connected to the ringer, and the other side of the ringer would be either connected to tip or ring. But in the case of the private line, the non-party line, your ring signal is just between tip and ring. So the ringer, you'd move the wire from the ground to whatever the opposite was. If you were a ring ground ringer, you'd move the wire from the yellow to the green. If you were a tip ground, you'd move the wire from the yellow to the red and rewire the ringer. See, my uncle, who worked for the phone company, that's what he used to do. It's when they were converting over to party lines, he would come out and rewire the ringer. That's what he did for my grandmother when the party line was switched over, and for my parents when the party line was switched over to private line. Actually, my parents first, because in the area, my dad was a fire chief, and he had to have a private line. In the old days, everybody was sharing, you had up to 12 people sharing your line on a party line. And the problem that would happen with the party line is, well, if somebody else was on the phone, you couldn't make or receive a call until they hung up. So, being the chief that drove the truck, he had a pager, and back then a pager was the size of a table radio that would go off if there was a call, but if he didn't hear the address being broadcast, he'd have to phone in, and that required a reliable phone. And with 12 people sharing the line, sometimes getting people, especially old people that are, long-winded, to get them off the phone was a challenge at times. So we got a private line before everybody else, and I remember my uncle coming over and taking apart the phone on the kitchen table, and I have one just like that. I have exactly the same color phone as well. Taking it apart and rewiring the ringer for an individual line. So this stuff is neutral. This was actually developed for the telephone industry. It was developed for cleaning crossbar and Strauger switches and stuff. And it's an excellent cleaner. So I'm just going to spray some of this on the contacts. And we'll spray some of this into the switch and see whether that'll free this up. I may have to take this limiter apart and just give it a once over. And this is also why it's a good idea to take pictures or videotape anything if you're taking things apart. We have a white wire here, a black wire there, a red wire there, and an orange wire over here. And I'm going to remove the wires right now, and we'll take the dial assembly apart. I want to free that to. This is sticking, so I got to take this apart to get at it. So we'll remove the wires first of all, and then I can remove. The nice thing about this is you just have to turn them like a quarter of a turn. They're all just on a standard spade type wire. So we'll remove the wires, and then I'll remove the dial. The rest of this out of the way. We're going to work on this dial here and see if we can get this thing to free up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the limiter apart. Where is it sticking? Oh, it's sticking here on here as well. This is damaged. This is probably part of the problem. This is bent. So we'll just straighten that up a bit. Oh, that's all the problem was. There, I don't need to do any more. It was just the dial. The dial was jammed. Look at that. So we watch this closely on the bottom here. You'll see what it does when I dial a 1, for example. This is going to pulse once. See? If we slow it down, and you'll see that the cam on the back side here actually releases this spring as well. So even though this pulses twice, it cuts the second one off before it finishes. You see, as I start to move the dial, it lets the switch close, and then as I release it, it'll open it once and then close it, and then it keeps it closed. If I dial a 2, it'll do it twice. So there's the first one, There's the second one, and now it closes it, right? So you get 2 pulses. If I do a 0, it'll do it 10 times. So we'll watch this in slow motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it closes the switch to keep the switch closed. So what it's doing is it's opening and closing the switch. If I dial a 3, it'll do it 3 times. So the switch is closed. Okay, now watch. It's going to open once. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and then it closes the switch. So it gives you 3 opens. And this dial is working. And who made this? This was made by Philips. Made in Canada. Of course it was made in Canada. And it still works. So I can put this dial back on the phone, and we'll hook the wires up to this thing and see whether this will actually make an outgoing and receive a call. Brass screws, I think. They don't rust. Back in the day, this is the type of thing that if you had a problem with your phone, you didn't just go buy a new phone. You phoned the phone company because they owned the phone, right? Nobody owned their own phone back in the day. You rented it as part of your service. So if you had a problem with your phone, you called up the phone company, and they sent out a repair guy, and the repair guy would actually sit in the house, and he would actually repair the phone for you on the spot. So let's reconnect our wires here. We have a slate, or white, I guess. A white, black, and a red and an orange. So there's the white wire went up here. They have a memory of their own. They don't want to go where I want them to go. Damn it, get in there. Ah! And then the red wire here. Now, as far as connecting this up to the phone, I've got a cord here. I don't have to worry about the red and green. In this case, it's probably marked red and black on this phone cord. Now I could connect it to here, or I could just connect it to the end of the existing wire. Depends on how permanent I want to make this connection. But for now, I'll just connect it right inside the phone here in place of the existing red and green wire. Which are, it looks like they're reversed, because the green was going to red and the red was going to green, you see. We'll just disconnect this and I'll hook them up the correct way. Here's the ringer wire there. Somebody had moved it over from this one, the orange wire, the ringer wire orange. Somebody had moved it over to the tip side. So this would have been a ring ground ring, because that orange wire at one point would have gone to that terminal there when this was a party line system. Okay. New phone line connected. I'll leave the base off for now. Let me plug this in and see whether it works. What do you guys think? Is this thing going to work? Well, let's see if we have a dial tone. Can you guys hear this? It has a dial tone. Loud and clear. Let's see if I can dial my cell phone here. Let's see what's the number on this thing. It's actually not my cell phone. This is a test phone. It's Fongo. It's working. Okay, it's working. As you can hear me, I'm talking to you through my VoIP system. And if I talk back, you should be able to hear me through the... can you hear me through the earpiece? Hello, hello, hello. It works. So, I always love that clunk sound when people hung up with a big old phone like this. I'm going to phone my number back. Will this bell ring? Love it. Hello? Hello? Yes, it works. Yes, very good. Gotta like it. So, an antique phone. I can put this together now and actually use it as a phone. Needs some bit of cleaning up. It's a little bit dirty, but it works. And I could just go ahead and leave that phone cord on. And I now have, I don't know what year this would be. I'm going to guess, somebody might know. I'm going to guess probably early 50s, I'm thinking. Early 50s, maybe. I don't exactly know when these ones hit the market because it was before my time. But there you have it. Classic antique phone works. Bell works, dial works, handset works. I'm going to do the same with the rest of them. I've got about, I think I got 10 or 11. And I'm going to see if I can get them all working. And even if I don't use it as a phone, it's just kind of cool to have something like that sitting around. But of course, I'm going to use it as a phone because it works. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.